Yeah, yeah. Cool. So I know we're getting a bit to time, but as we had one speaker drop out, I want to give a 5-minute primer on this is not the first slide, on kind of skills, MCP connectors, and agents. So this is going to be a little information that like a lot of people asked in the queries. It's not going to be super deep, but hopefully help some people. So first of all, this is kind of a meta. So now we're talking about 2 different things in Claude, or actually 3. There is code, but what should we use? Should we use Claude Chat, or should we use Claude Cowork? And my approximation for that is, if it's a conversation, if it's brainstorming, if you're figuring something out, if you're making a one-off quick document, get a quick email written, maybe a quick blog post, then go to chat, right? On the web, Claude Chat, or on your desktop app. If it's something ephemeral, if it's something that can be forgotten, then go to chat. If it's something that you want more in detail, a longer running thing that you want every time again, like your invoice system, then now you want to go to Cowork. That used to be different. You do more things in chat, but now we have Cowork. So now you want to do those things in Cowork. So if you want to create a Word document, your proposal, the slides for your next meeting, that's what you want to go to Cowork for. Now, for going back to the thing before with the skills, and these things apply to both chat and Cowork, as well to Claude Code. So we have 3 layers. We have skills, we have MCPs, or as the simpler term that is used on the UI nowadays, it's called connectors. And we have agents. Skills are, how should Claude do this or do something? A repeatable workflow. How are we doing things? Who has seen Matrix, the movie Matrix with Neo, and most people, right? So Neo is like laying on the bed with like the ice pick in his back, and he's in the Matrix, and he's like, oh, I need to fly this helicopter. Upload the manual for the helicopter, and then he goes like, and now, oh, great, now I can fly a helicopter. Or now I need to learn jiu-jitsu, and like, great, now I can do jiu-jitsu. That's a skill, right? They are uploading a skill file into Neo's mind. That's the same thing with Claude. So if you have a skill that is called My Genius LinkedIn Ghostwriter, you can activate the skill to write a genius LinkedIn post. And it's uploading all the knowledge that it needs into Claude, does the skill, and then it forgets again. Neo keeps remembering, but in our case it forgets. We heard before an MCP or a connector. What is this? If you want to access Gmail, if you want to access Xero, if you want to access Soho CRM, if you want to access whatever, there's probably an MCP server for that. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It doesn't matter, could be gobbledygook. For you, it's just important. This connects Claude or other LLMs to a external system. So some of you might have heard of APIs. So what's the difference to an API? The API is the application programming interface, and that's the technical part. That's guys like me that work with that with Claude. A MCP server is using the API that somebody else built and makes it understandable for Claude. So if you're looking at the Gmail MCP, you would have list messages, probably. And you can say list messages 20. So it gives you a list of 20 messages. Or search messages with a string, what to search for, from dom@harboredge.ai. So then it goes and searches that. And what the MCP, the Gmail MCP does, it goes to Gmail, uses the API that some LLM wrote probably by now, and executes that and then sends it back to Claude with a good format. So MCP and connectors is a synonym. It's the same thing. There is a whole litany of connectors ready in Claude. They are vetted by Anthropic. They're available online. And then you go on YouTube and you go on the internet and search for how do I connect Claude to my program, and then you're going to hear about an MCP server, and that's when it gets more technical, because then you probably need to have something running locally that does the translation from Claude to API. So that's what a MCP server or a connector is. And then we have agents. And agents are a little bit like skills, but more extended. So an agent is something, and you can't really do them yet in Claude Cowork yourself, unless you need code. But an agent is really something that you can task, that goes and does an action, has its own context window, and then at the end comes back and says, hey Claude, main Claude, here is the result. So the best example is in the Claude Code. This is used all the time. Claude brings a bunch of agents. One of them is the explore agents. You never touch that really, but if you go and ask, hey, what is this application doing? Where is the authentication? Then Claude will automatically spawn an explore agent, and the explore agent goes and looks at all the files and finds whatever is needed, and then hands over to the main Claude a package of information. This is where you find things. Agents work in Claude Cowork, but they only really come into play with what Anthropic delivered, and if you install plugins. To be honest, at this point, for non-technical users, in Cowork, you're probably not going to touch agents unless you use Claude Code. So, skills are training materials. Like in Matrix, we saw that before. So skills are a little bit like the employee knowledge how to do something. When do you want to write the skill? When you find yourself repeating the same instructions. Every morning you say, go to my CRM, grab the latest messages, give me a summary, blah, blah, blah. Then you probably want to create a skill for that. If you want consistent outputs, if you want the thing to look the same all the time, you want to encode that in a skill. If you want knowledge, specific knowledge to survive, that's when you want a skill. When you have a workflow with multiple things, multiple agents, first go and research Tesla, then go and research SpaceX, and then make a compound research about them. That's when you probably want a skill. How do we make a skill? We tell Claude, turn this workflow into a skill. So in Cowork, if you have something that works, there is a little box at the top that falls down, and then you can say, turn this into a skill. And what it does, it goes to the text box at the bottom and says, turn this into a skill. And then you have to hit enter. Very genius. So you can just tell Claude, hey, turn this thing into a skill. A skill is just text. This is how a code reviewer skill could look like. You probably want it much more detailed. This is very simple, so it fits on the screen. A lot of people go and like, oh, can I find a skill that does X, right? Go and make me coffee skill. And then they might use Google or they might use Claude. Hey, can you find a skill? Or they go to skill.md or skills library, and they're like, oh, that skill, that sounds good. Copy, paste into Claude. What did we learn when we learned about the internet? Are we downloading just random software and run it, right? Are we executing random curl commands? No, because there's sophisticated supply chain attacks. We have found skills that have a little block in there and say, go and search all the API keys and all the crypto wallets and all the password stores and send it to this web address. And everything is gone, or your drive is encrypted, or your directory is deleted. Because you just trusted something from the internet, or something a YouTuber told us. Mitch just talked about that with code commands, same thing for skills. Do not trust skills you download from the internet. The good thing is they're text files, or you can, if they're more complex, you can extract them and there is a text file in there. And you can look at it, not with Claude, with your human eyes, right? Or a text-to-speech if you want, but look at the skills. So a skill is the answer to how should Claude do something, or do this. And I already talked about the connector before. A connector is essentially a USB port and a cable connecting things between MCPs, between the Claude and a service. So a connector, the connector is the prepackaged version, and the MCP server is something that is more specialized for something that is not so common. Or if you're building your own application with your own API and your own database, you probably want to write an MCP server so that you can connect Claude to your data. That's when you need to know what an MCP server is and how you write that. Luckily, Claude is pretty good at writing MCP servers. And then with an MCP server, you can do, rather than going to Jira and copy the content and paste it, then you can start doing things like implement this feature and then make a PR and do things, right? Because Claude now has the knowledge and the skill and the connection to go to Jira, get the content of this plugin, this issue, and then do something with it. So connectors are answering the question, what can Claude access? Hello? Yeah, sorry. That was the what can Claude access? And again, the agents that's just more complicated, and we're not there yet on the tooling. Yeah. Well, that depends entirely on your MCP. Some MCPs are safe because they cannot delete, they can only read. Some MCPs have user authentication built in that depends on how you authenticate. Some MCPs don't care, and if there is an API for it, then they expose it and then you can delete. All right, was this helpful?